The mission begins. Cold metal walls, a dim red light, a sound like distant thunder rolling through the ship's hull. The alien observer, known as Corval, jerks awake. His skin is slick with pale blue sweat. The nightmare still clings to him. Images of fire screaming and 1,000 human eyes staring straight into his mind. He tries to breathe. The air is thin and smells of iron. He is not on his homeworld anymore. He is inside a long transport vessel of the Concorde, a neutral fleet. Outside, black space stretches like an ocean with no shore. Across the narrow cabin, another alien lies slumped against the wall. It is Serac, one of the older observers. His chest glows faintly, where a wound seeps light instead of blood. His voice is a whisper, rough and urgent. Do not look them in the eyes. When they fight, Corval freezes. What? Serac's eyes cloud. His claws scrape the deck. Again, weaker. Do not look. The older alien's head tilts back, mouth still half open, and the glow fades from his wound. The ship vibrates once, as a heavy bulkhead door seals with a hiss. Corval is alone with a corpse and a warning. He looks down at his trembling hands. The mission hasn't even started, and already something feels wrong. Assignment hours later. Corval sits in the briefing chamber with 7 other observers from various species, thin, tall, and nervous. A holographic display shows the battlefield, a shattered moon orbiting a dead star. This is where the humans will fight the Zrith, an insectoid species that has already devoured 2 colonies. A Concorde officer, a tall being of translucent crystal, speaks with calm precision. Your task is simple. You will record, analyze, and report on human combat performance. You will not interfere. You will not engage. Observation only. Corval raises one hand. Why humans? They are new to interstellar war, primitive, predictable. The officer's crystal surface flickers once. That is precisely why we must study them. Another observer chuckles softly. Primitive prey. They will be crushed. We will get easy data. But Corval can't stop thinking about Serac's dying words. Do not look them in the eyes when they fight. What kind of prey needs such a warning? The officer continues. You will be attached to Unit Red Spear, a human frontline detachment. Their consent has been negotiated. You will see everything you wish to see. The hologram zooms in. Red dots mark human positions. Blue dots mark Zrith swarms. The map pulses like a heartbeat. Corval swallows hard. The journey. The transport ship drifts closer to the shattered moon. Through small viewing slits, Corval sees wreckage already orbiting. The bones of other ships, burnt metal and frozen bodies. The stars themselves seem muted here, as if light hesitates. He records his thoughts into a palm-sized lens, his official log. Mission Day 1 entering the war zone. Humans expected to engage enemy within next cycle. Initial analysis, morale unknown. Technology basic. Likely outcome, heavy losses. But even as he speaks, a part of him feels a pressure in his skull, a strange vibration. It started the moment they crossed the last beacon. Like a heartbeat, but not his own. He shuts off the recorder. Across the hold, one of the observers vomits a stream of clear fluid. Another sits with eyes closed, whispering to herself. The closer they get to the humans, the stranger everyone feels. First glimpses a metallic clang. The deck shakes. The bulkhead at the far end slides open with a hiss of white vapor. The air changes, warmer, heavier. Footsteps echo, slow and deliberate. They enter. 10 humans in heavy combat suits. Armor black with red streaks like dried blood. Visors down. No insignia, no words, only movement. Each step is perfectly timed, a rhythm like drums of an unseen army. Corval's first thought, too big. He had read the data. Humans average 1.8 standard units in height. But in full armor they seem like walking fortresses. Weapons are magnetically locked to their backs. Small drones float around them like silent birds. The observers whisper among themselves. Are these soldiers? Or machines? The humans do not look at the aliens. They file in, forming 2 rows. One of them, taller than the rest, stops. Slowly, the visor tilts toward Corval. For a heartbeat, he almost sees a face behind the glass. Eyes, or a reflection. A flicker of pale blue like his own fear. He remembers Serac's warning and forces himself to look away. His heart hammers. Brief encounter. The conquered officer steps forward. Observers, meet Unit Red Spear. You will board their assault craft. Remain behind the red line. Record as much as possible. The tall human lifts one hand. Metal fingers tap the side of the helmet. A small speaker emits a low, distorted voice. Stay close. Don't get lost, that is all. Then the humans turn as one and march toward the next airlock. Corval feels his claws dig into his knees. Something about the way they move, like predators pretending to be prey. He switches on his lens again. Mission log. First contact with humans. Initial impression. Disciplined but silent. Presence. Unsettling. Recommend caution. The lens vibrates, static flickering across its surface. He shuts it off once more. As the observers are led down a narrow corridor toward the assault craft, the ship's lights dim. Red emergency beacons glow. A low hum rises from the walls, a resonance felt more than heard. It matches the beat of the human footsteps. One observer mutters, "I feel..." Inside their pulse, another hisses, "They're doing something to us." Corval glances at the humans ahead. They are utterly calm. One adjusts a weapon, another checks a wrist display. No sign they hear the aliens panic. They reach a small hangar. The assault craft waits like a black spear, wings folded. Its surface is marked with symbols Corval can't read. The humans step aboard without a word. A Concorde escort gestures. Observers on board. Corval hesitates at the threshold. The nightmare from his sleep flashes again. Fire, screaming human eyes. He looks down. His hands are shaking. He steps inside the human craft dim lighting. Metal walls covered in strange scratches, marks from past battles or something ritualistic. Each human sits in a molded seat, helmet still down. Only one seat remains open, across from the tall leader. Corval takes it. For a moment no one speaks. The engines rumble. The craft detaches from the transport ship with a shudder. Through a small window he sees the black void and the broken moon turning slowly. He tries to record again. Static. The lens refuses to work. The tall human tilts its helmet slightly. Voice again, deeper this time. "Once we land, stay behind me." "If you can." Corval nods stiffly. His throat feels dry. He wants to ask what "if you can" means, but the words die. Another human, smaller but with heavier armor, begins to hum. Low, rising, like a song without words. One by one the others join in, a war chant made of breath and metal. The walls vibrate. Corval's hearts race. The chant is not loud, but it fills the craft, pressing against his mind. He looks at the leader. Behind the visor something moves, like a shadow of a face, eyes glinting. He looks away fast, approaching the battlefield. The pilot announces something in a clipped human language. The ship dips, gravity shifts. Through the window, Corval sees the battlefield spread out. Jagged rocks, glowing craters, swarms of insectoid ships moving like dark clouds. He feels the nightmare return, sharper now. The human's chant rises but still quiet, almost gentle. He realizes they are not afraid. They are ready. One of the other observers clutches her head. "I can't." Their minds. She collapses. The leader reaches out, metal glove brushing the fallen alien's shoulder. "Stay calm. This is only the beginning. Only the beginning." Final scene, cliffhanger. A warning alarm pulses. The craft shakes as it enters atmosphere. Fire streaks across the window. The humans tighten their straps. One by one they unlatch their weapons. The leader stands, towering over Corval. For the first time, the visor rises. Corval catches a glimpse of a human face, scarred, eyes pale and burning like twin suns. Not anger, not hatred. Something older, something deeper. Serac's dying words echo in his head. "Do not look them in the eyes when they fight." He looks away too late. For a heartbeat he feels as if he is falling through a sky of burning cities. The human's gaze pierces him, then the visor clicks shut again. The ship's ramp lowers with a hiss. Dust and fire swirl in. Outside, the battlefield roars, explosions, alien screeches, human war cries. The humans step forward into the storm, combat suits glowing faintly under the red sky. Corval clutches his recorder, frozen, knowing he's about to witness something he may never forget or survive. The assault craft tore through the upper atmosphere like a black arrow. Heat licked at its hull. Inside, Corval sat rigid, claws pressed into the seat. Every breath tasted of metal. The humans around him were silent, their armor humming softly, their weapons already primed. The hum was like a heartbeat that did not belong to him. The ship shook violently. A streak of green light cut past the window. Enemy fire. Someone screamed, one of the other alien observers. A human hand reached out and steadied her without a word. The leader's visor flickered with ghostly light as information scrolled across it. No fear, only focus. Corval tried to steady his recorder. It refused to activate. Static hissed in his ear, a high, thin sound. He felt as though invisible fingers were pressing against his skull. He remembered Serac's warning and kept his eyes on the floor. The ramp slammed open with a burst of dust and heat. Red sky above, black rock below. Shadows of insectoid ships swarming overhead. The humans moved as one, spilling out into the storm. The air tasted of ash and ozone. Explosions bloomed like flowers made of fire. Corval followed, stumbling onto the jagged ground. The sound hit him first. Not gunfire, not screams, something deeper. Human voices chanting, low, rhythmic, rising over the chaos. It sent a tremor through his bones. He realized it was the same tune they had hummed on the ship, now louder, a war song that made the air itself vibrate. Blasts of energy ripped across the battlefield. The insectoid warriors poured forward in black waves, claws clicking, wings snapping. They had numbers, speed, and hunger, yet the humans did not break. They advanced into the tide like a dark river against the current. Corval raised his eyes despite himself. He saw a human soldier stride through a wall of fire as if it were mist, armor glowing, weapon roaring, movements impossibly fast. Another human caught a falling comrade and spun, firing a burst that cut 3 enemies in half. They fought without hesitation, even when wounded, even when surrounded. It was not desperation. It was purpose. His lens flickered alive for a heartbeat and captured a single image, a human turning its visor toward him mid-battle. Through the glass, Corval glimpsed a pale face marked with soot and blood, lips moving around a silent word. He could not hear it, but he felt it slide into his mind. A promise or a warning. The soldier smiled, small, cold, knowing, then vanished into the smoke. Another observer shouted over the noise, "They shouldn't be able to do this. They're outnumbered!" But his voice was lost under the roar of weapons. The humans kept moving, always together, always faster than the enemy could react. Every time a Zrith adapted, the humans shifted tactics instantly, like they had rehearsed every possibility. A blast knocked Corval to the ground. Heat scorched his arm. When he looked up, a towering insectoid leapt toward him, claws open. Before it landed, a human appeared between them, shield raised. The claws scraped harmlessly off the barrier. The human's weapon flashed once, and the creature dissolved into ash. The soldier didn't even look back at Corval. It was already gone, back into the fight. The sky burned brighter. The ground trembled under the clash of armies. Corval scrambled to his feet, heart pounding. He had come expecting to watch a primitive species struggle. Instead, he was seeing something else, something disciplined, brutal, and strangely beautiful. Every movement, every shout, every shot was part of a pattern he could not understand. Above the noise, his own voice whispered, "This is not combat. This is something else." But the words were swallowed by the wind and the fire. He turned slowly, trying to track the humans through the chaos. His recorder flickered again, then died. It was as if the battlefield itself refused to let him make a record. He felt a prickle at the back of his neck like unseen eyes. Were the humans watching him even while they fought? Or was the battlefield alive with their minds? He remembered Serac's last breath. "Do not look them in the eyes when they fight." He lowered his gaze, but it was too late. Everywhere he looked, he caught flashes of faces behind dark visors, eyes blazing like tiny suns, and each time he felt the nightmare press closer, a weight in his skull. The ground shook harder. Somewhere ahead, the leader raised a hand, and the entire human line shifted at once, moving like a single body. They pushed deeper into the enemy swarm, cutting a path that should have been impossible. Even the Zrith hesitated now, their formation faltering, their claws clattering nervously. Korval's claws trembled. He was not sure if he was more afraid of the enemy or of the beings he had come to observe. He realized that if he survived this landing, his report would never be the same as his expectations. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not predictable. Humanity was something else entirely, and he had only begun to see it. Ahead, a new light blossomed, white, silent, and blinding. The humans surged toward it. The nightmare in Korval's head pulsed harder, like a door about to open. He took one step after them, unable to stop himself. As if drawn into their gravity, then the fire swallowed the horizon, and everything went white, darkness. No sound, only a faint pulse inside Korval's skull. He floated in it for what felt like hours, until a flash burned across his vision. The battlefield returned in pieces, black rock, falling ash, the smell of metal and blood. He was lying on the ground, half buried under debris. His recorder blinked weakly next to his hand, cracked but still alive. He pushed himself up. Around him the war raged on, but something was different. The Zrith swarm had slowed, moving like insects caught in syrup. The humans were still advancing, but not firing as before. They were doing something else. Their visors glowed faintly, symbols shifting across the glass. Korval could feel a vibration under his feet, a low hum, like the start of an earthquake. He crawled toward a ridge to see better. Below, a group of humans stood perfectly still amid falling shells. Enemy fire passed around them, bending away like wind around stone. One soldier walked through a burning crater unharmed, stopped, and whispered to a captured Zrith. The insectoid convulsed and fell limp without a shot fired. Korval replayed the image in his cracked lens. The sound came through distorted, but clear enough to chill him. "You're next." The human had said it in his own language. He stared down at the battlefield. This was not allowed. The conquered code forbade the use of unregistered mental or experimental weapons. Combat must be physical, measurable, and declared. The humans were breaking the rule, and breaking it openly. A shadow fell across him. He turned. A human commander stood on the ridge, visor reflecting the burning sky. It raised one gloved hand. "You shouldn't be up here." The voice was deep, almost gentle, but full of iron. I'm only an observer," Korval stammered. "You are using tactics outside the treaty." The visor tilted, as if considering. "Treaties end when survival begins." Before Korval could answer, an alarm screamed from his lens. New data streamed across its cracked surface, enemy movements shifting, weapons jamming, minds fracturing. The humans were adapting faster than the Zrith could counter, rewriting the battle in real time. Another observer stumbled up the ridge, eyes wide. "They're not fighting fair." She cut off as a human appeared at her side and pressed a finger to his helmet where a mouth should be. Silence. She froze. Trembling, the commander turned back to Korval. "You wanted to watch? Watch closer." Then it gestured, and two armored soldiers seized Korval's arms, dragging him toward a waiting transport sled hidden behind the rocks. He struggled. "Where are you taking me?" "To where you can truly see," the commander said. The sled shot across the battlefield, weaving between bursts of energy and collapsing enemy lines. All around them, humans moved like shadows, already one step ahead of every threat. Korval felt sick, dizzy, but also pulled by a strange fascination. They were not only winning, they were rewriting the meaning of war while he watched. The sled plunged into a tunnel carved into the moon's crust. The noise of battle faded. The air grew colder, wetter. Lights flickered along the walls, illuminating cages and instruments. Korval's heart beat faster. This was no neutral observation post. This was a lab. The humans released him in a chamber lined with glass. Behind each pane stood a captured Zrith, twitching, eyes blank. Monitors showed brainwaves, chemical streams, something like code. Humans moved among the stations, still armored but helmetless now. Their faces were pale, focused, calm. Some were whispering in languages he could not understand. The commander entered behind him, removing its helmet. A scarred human face, eyes like chips of ice. "You see now," it said. "We don't just fight, we learn. We change." Korval pressed his back against the glass. "This is against every law of war." "You are surviving," the human said simply. "Do you think the Zrith follow your laws?" On one monitor, a human touched the forehead of a captured insectoid. Symbols spread across the creature's carapace like fire. It shuddered and went still. The human looked up at Korval and smiled the same knowing smile he had seen on the battlefield. Korval's recorder buzzed weakly in his hand. His voice shook as he spoke into it. "Mission log. Humans are using unregistered tactics, altering enemy behavior without weapons. This is..." Static swallowed his words. The device went dead. The commander leaned closer. "You wanted truth. This is truth. But truth has a price." Behind the glass, one of the Zrith suddenly turned its head toward Korval, its compound eyes locked on him, then on the human beside it. A low hiss filled the chamber. The humans stiffened. "Out!" the commander snapped. "Now!" Two soldiers grabbed Korval again and pulled him toward a door at the far end. As they dragged him away, he saw the commander press a panel. The lights dimmed, alarms began to wail, and the humming under the floor rose to a roar. Whatever experiment was happening here, it was no longer under control. The last thing Korval saw before the door sealed was the commander's eyes glowing faintly in the dark, like twin coals. Then the door slammed shut, cutting off the sound of the lab. In the sudden silence of the corridor beyond, Korval realized the nightmare he had carried since the transport ship was not fading. It was getting stronger, spreading, as if the humans had opened a door inside his head and were stepping through. He whispered to himself, "This is not observation. This is becoming." Far away, the battle still raged. But he no longer knew who he feared more, the Zrith or the humans who had invited him to watch, and somewhere behind the sealed door, something began to scream. The alarms were already screaming when the door slammed behind Korval. Red light washed over the corridor like running blood. He stumbled as the floor shook beneath his feet. The two armored humans who had dragged him out of the lab were gone. Only the echo of their boots remained. The humming under the metal plates was louder now, almost a growl. He pressed his back to the wall. Through the thick door, he could still hear the muffled sounds of the lab, hissing, shouts in human voices, a rising metallic screech. The nightmare pulse in his skull flared with each noise. It wasn't just in his head anymore. It was in the ship, in the air, everywhere. A small service hatch banged open beside him. Another observer, thin, gray-skinned, eyes wide, crawled out. "They're turning on us," she hissed. "The humans." "The Zrith. Everything." She tried to run, but a gust of hot air burst from the hatch and knocked her sprawling. Korval grabbed her arm and pulled her up. "Where can we go?" he asked. She only shook her head. The corridor lights flickered and died. For a heartbeat there was only darkness. Then a faint glow appeared at the far end. Not light, but data streaming down the walls like liquid code, blue and green symbols running in rivers. Korval had never seen anything like it. The patterns pulsed in time with the nightmare in his head. He followed the glow, half dragged by the other observer. The corridor opened into a larger chamber, dim and wet, filled with rows of glass tubes. Inside each tube floated something. Fragments of Zrith carapace, strands of human nerve tissue, pale shapes half-grown and half-dissolved. The tubes throbbed softly, alive. On a central platform stood a single human in armor, stripped of its helmet. A young face, calm, hands moving over a console, as if playing an instrument. Every touch sent a ripple through the tubes, data and blood mixing like twin streams. The human didn't look up. "You're not supposed to be here," it said without turning. "But maybe you should be." Korval tried to speak, but his throat felt tight. What is this? The human's fingers paused. Learning, it said. Every enemy leaves something behind. We collect it. We change it. We survive. It finally turned its head, eyes bright and empty at the same time. We warned you not to look too closely. Behind Corval, the other observer gagged. One of the tubes had cracked open, spilling a thin stream of glowing fluid onto the floor. Something moved inside, a shape with too many limbs. It pressed against the glass, eyes flicking between Corval and the human on the platform. The human continued, as if reading Corval's thoughts. They think we fight with weapons. We don't. We fight with memory, with fear, with whatever they give us. Another tube shattered with a sharp hiss. Steam rose, carrying the smell of metal and something sweet. Corval staggered back. The nightmare pulse in his skull now beat like a drum. He could feel the shapes in the tubes, thinking, reaching, trying to touch him. The human stepped down from the platform, boots splashing in the glowing fluid. You wanted blood and data, it said quietly. Here it is. An alarm cut through the chamber, a deeper tone than before. The lights above flashed white. In the rows of tubes, eyes began to open, hundreds of them. Zrith eyes and human eyes and eyes that were something in between. The cracked tube burst fully, spilling its contents onto the floor, a writhing, half-formed creature that screamed in a chorus of voices. Corval grabbed the other observer's arm. We have to get out. The human blocked the way, still calm. There is no out anymore. You've seen too much. Another explosion shook the floor. Fluid sprayed, and the rows of tubes began to shudder and crack one by one. Corval's claws slipped on the wet metal. The nightmare inside his head was no longer just a pulse. It was a voice whispering, urging him to run, to fight, to join. The human tilted its head, almost smiling. Stay and watch. You're part of it now. Behind the human, something huge moved in the shadows, a shape of armor and carapace fused, taller than any soldier, rising from the broken glass. It opened its mouth, and a cloud of pale mist poured out, smelling of ash and earth. All the lights went out at once. Corval heard the other observer scream, felt himself pulled backward by unseen hands. The last thing he saw before darkness swallowed the chamber was the human's eyes, glowing brighter, reflecting the rising creature behind it like twin mirrors. Then everything was black, and the only sound left was the slow, steady beat of the nightmare inside his skull. As if it were counting down. A thunderclap woke Corval. He lay on a cold deck, lungs burning, drenched in a thin film of glowing liquid. The world above him flickered between light and dark. For a moment, he thought he was still inside the lab. But when he raised his head, he saw stars, red, fractured stars through a cracked ceiling, and felt the rush of air that did not belong underground. He staggered to his feet. Around him, the corridor had been ripped apart. The tubes were gone. Only empty sockets and shattered glass remained. The other observer was nowhere to be seen. The nightmare pulse in his skull had turned into a steady thrum, like engines running just beneath the floor. A hatch opened ahead with a hiss. Two humans stepped through, armor streaked with ash. Without a word, they seized Corval's arms and pulled him down a sloping passage. He tried to resist, but his legs would not obey. His claws scraped the walls, leaving faint trails. The passage opened into a hangar carved into the moon's crust. A small assault ship waited there, black wings folded, engines glowing. The humans pushed him up the ramp. Inside the ship, the air was heavy with the smell of oil and ozone. More soldiers sat strapped into their seats, visors down, weapons clutched like extensions of their arms. Not one of them spoke. The leader from before was there too, standing in the aisle, helmet in hand. Its face was pale, lips pressed into a thin line. It gestured for Corval to sit. "You will see what we are," it said softly. "You will understand." The ramp closed. The engines roared. The ship lifted and shot into a tunnel of black rock that opened into space. Through the small window, Corval saw the battlefield again, only now it was worse. Clouds of debris hung in orbit. Ships burned silently. The Zrith swarmed in knots of darkness, but the humans were not retreating. They were moving inward, toward the densest cluster, as if diving straight into the heart of the storm. He clutched his recorder, but it was dead. All he could do was watch. Inside the cabin, the humans began to hum again, that same low war song. This time it was slower, deeper, and he felt it in his bones. The ship's walls vibrated. The lights dimmed to a dull red. Symbols flickered on their visors like flowing water. One by one they closed their eyes, but their hands stayed on their weapons. Corval whispered, "What are you doing?" The leader looked at him. Becoming, the ship plunged into the storm of battle. Outside, plasma fire and insectoid fighters whirled like sparks. The hull shook but held. Corval pressed his face to the window and saw impossible things. Human assault craft, flying in formations tighter than any machine could compute. Their movements anticipating the enemy like dancers in a ritual. Explosions blossomed but always just behind them, as if they had already foreseen where the next strike would be. He turned back. The soldiers were still humming, eyes shut, swaying slightly. The leader reached out and touched Corval's forehead with a gloved finger. For a heartbeat, the nightmare in his skull became an open sky full of images. Earth's oceans, its cities, its wars, its dead. A voice spoke inside him, not in words, but in a surge of feeling. You asked to watch. "We are showing you!" he gasped and fell back. The leader withdrew its hand. "Stay behind me," it said. The ship jolted hard, then dropped. Gravity shifted. Through the window, Corval saw they were descending toward the surface of the dead star itself, into a whirlpool of red dust and energy where no ship should survive. Lightning arced between craters. The storm screamed like a living thing. The ramp began to lower while they were still in the air. Wind tore into the cabin. Dust and static filled Corval's lungs. The humans stood and formed a line at the edge of the ramp, weapons ready, eyes still closed. The leader put its helmet back on and faced the storm. Corval clung to a support bar, heart hammering. "You can't go out there. Nothing lives down there." The leader's voice came through the helmet speaker, calm and steady. "That's why we're going." A flash of white light engulfed the ramp. For an instant, Corval saw shapes moving in the storm. Giant silhouettes, wings of bone, eyes like burning coals. The humans stepped forward as one and jumped into the maelstrom. Corval screamed. The wind ripped the sound from his throat. Then something unseen seized him by the shoulders and pulled him forward too. His feet left the deck. The storm swallowed everything. The last thing he felt before the world dissolved was 100 human eyes opening inside his mind. And the nightmare voice whispering, "Now you're inside." Corval fell through red lightning and black dust. His claws reached for anything but found only air. All sound was gone except the slow heartbeat inside his skull. For a heartbeat he thought he was dead. Then he landed. The ground under him was soft and pulsing like a giant muscle. Red fog swirled. He tried to stand, but the world tilted and folded, the horizon bending like liquid. Shapes rose out of the mist, hills, towers, a sky full of floating eyes, then melted away. He blinked and saw something else entirely, an endless plain of glass under a black sun. He realized he was not on the star at all. He was inside it, or inside something's mind. The humans were already there. Their armor glowed faint blue. They stood in a circle around him, weapons lowered. The leader took off its helmet and tossed it aside. Its eyes burned white. "Welcome," it said. "This is where the real war happens." Corval's mouth was dry. "Where?" "The Zrith do not fight only with bodies," the leader said. "They infect thought. They build traps in the mind. We learned to follow them inside." As if to prove it, the mist cleared and revealed a Zrith towering over them, its claws like scythes, its carapace shimmering with symbols. It opened its mouth, but no sound came. Instead, Corval's mind filled with a hiss of broken memories. His homeworld, his childhood, the training for this mission, all playing backwards, twisting. He fell to his knees, clutching his head. The humans moved as one. They raised their weapons, but did not fire. Instead, they spoke, a low chant in a language Corval did not know. Symbols lifted off their armor and drifted into the air like fireflies. The Zrith lunged and dissolved into mist before touching them. The ground shuddered. Corval forced himself upright. "This is impossible. None of this is real." The leader looked at him. "It's real enough to kill you." Another figure rose from the fog, this one wearing his own face. It walked toward him, eyes empty, claws dripping black light. "You should never have come," it said in his voice. He stumbled back. "It's not me. It's a trick." "Everything here is a trick," the leader said. "Fight it, or it will use you." Corval tried to speak, but the copy of himself leapt at him. He raised his claws instinctively. When they met, a jolt of cold fire ran up his arms. He saw flashes, the lab, the tubes, the human's calm face. The nightmare pulse in his skull became a roar. For an instant, he felt himself splitting into two. The humans shouted a new word in unison. The ground cracked. From the fissure rose a surge of blue light, swallowing the copy. Corval gasped. His claws were shaking. "How do you do this?" He whispered. "We don't fight alone," the leader said. "We link." Before Corval could answer, the red fog ahead coiled into a vortex. Out of it stepped a Zrith queen, taller than a tower, eyes like dying stars. Its voice came as a flood of images, burning worlds, broken fleets, rivers of black ichor. The human circle tightened. Their eyes blazed. "This is it," the leader murmured. "The heart," the queen raised a claw. Around them, the plane of glass began to crack and sink, exposing an endless dark sea beneath. Corval felt himself slipping toward it. The nightmare voice inside his head was screaming now, but not words, just a single pull, like a tide drawing him in. The leader reached for him. "Stay with us or you'll drown." The dark sea rose like a wall. The queen stepped forward, and its shadow fell over everything. Corval's vision narrowed. He felt hands on his shoulders, human hands, warm and steady, and heard the leader's voice close to his ear. "Open your eyes." He did. The world turned white. Corval opened his eyes to blinding white. No fog, no battlefield, no humans, only a smooth floor that stretched forever, glowing faintly like bone. There was no sound except his own breathing, the nightmare pulse that had been hammering in his skull since the transport ship was gone. For the first time in weeks his head was silent. He stood slowly. His claws left no marks on the floor. Above him hung a sun that was not a sun, a perfect circle of darkness ringed by light. He whispered, "Where am I?" A voice answered behind him. "Inside what you feared." He spun around. The human leader stood there, helmet gone, armor cracked and dim. Its face was pale and tired, but its eyes still glowed faint white. The other soldiers were gone. Only the two of them remained. Corval tried to step back, but the space shifted, folding like paper, until he stood an arm's length from the human. "What is this place?" he asked. The leader looked up at the dark sun. "The core. Not of the Zrith, of us. You, the nightmare you felt wasn't theirs. It was ours. We built it." Corval's chest tightened. "Why? Because fighting them out there wasn't enough." The leader's voice was soft, but each word struck like stone. "They live in minds. We had to change ours. So we took everything they used against us, fear, pain, memory, and made it our weapon. We planted it in every soldier. We carried it to every front." Corval shook his head. "You infected yourselves. We evolved ourselves." The leader stepped closer. "You wanted to watch humans fight. You've been inside the real battle since you boarded your ship. You've been inside our nightmare. Images burst around them, Earth's cities in ruins, children crying, soldiers walking into fire, then the same soldiers rising with white eyes, humming." Corval fell to his knees, covering his head. "Stop," he whispered. "It's too much." The images vanished. The leader knelt in front of him. "We warned you not to look them in the eyes when they fight. You did. Now it's in you too." Corval stared at his own hands. Thin white cracks glowed under his skin like lightning under ice. "What is happening to me?" "You're linking," the leader said. "If you don't anchor yourself, you'll drown in it. But if you do," it paused, "you'll see everything. You'll know why we can't stop." A low tremor passed through the white floor. The dark sun above flickered. Out at the edge of the endless plain, shapes appeared, tall, many-limbed silhouettes, dozens, hundreds, all marching slowly toward them. The Drith were here too, bleeding through the human mindscape like black ink in water. The leader rose. "They found us. They want the core." Corval tried to stand, but his legs trembled. "I'm not like you. I can't fight this." The leader's voice was almost gentle. "You already are like us." That's the truth behind the nightmare. It isn't a curse. It's a doorway. The cracks under Corval's skin flared brighter. He felt the hum the humans always carried rising in his own throat, unbidden. The approaching shapes roared without sound. The white plane shook harder. The leader reached out a hand. "Choose now," it said. "Stay as you were or step through." The Zrith shadows broke into a run, claws raised. The dark sun split, spilling black light across the plain. Corval's vision blurred. The hum inside him grew until it was a scream. He raised his claw toward the leader's outstretched hand, and everything went black. Darkness swallowed Corval, but it was not empty. It was full of whispers, memories, and the steady hum of countless human voices. He felt himself falling, then floating. Around him flashed scenes from every battle he had ever seen. Not just human battles, but wars from his own people's history. They blurred together until he could no longer tell which memories were his. A point of light appeared ahead. He reached for it and found the leader's hand, pulling him out of the dark. They stood again on the endless white plain, but now it was fractured, pieces falling away into the void. The dark sun above had split into two, one black and one white, spinning like slow blades. The Zrith shadows rushed closer, claws like knives of night. Each step they took cracked the plain wider. Through the gaps, Corval saw the real world far below. The burning star, the collapsing lab, the war still raging. He realized this wasn't only a dreamscape. If the core fell, the soldiers in the real battle would fall too. The leader's eyes blazed. "This is the last moment. Either you anchor yourself and help us push them out, or you break away and wake up. But if you wake up now..." Corval finished the sentence himself. "I'll carry your nightmare with me forever," the leader nodded once. "And it will kill you, or make you something you don't understand." The hum rose inside Corval until it filled his skull. The cracks under his skin shone like lightning. He looked at his claws. They were glowing blue now, the same blue he had seen in the tubes. For a heartbeat he saw himself in the armor, eyes white, humming with the soldiers. The Zrith lunged. Corval closed his eyes. He remembered the dying crewmates' warning on the transport ship. Do not look them in the eyes when they fight. He had disobeyed. He had seen too much. And now he understood why. He opened his eyes and stepped forward. A wave of white light burst out from his claws. It met the rushing Zrith shadows and burned through them like morning through mist. They shrieked without sound, twisting, breaking apart. The plane steadied under his feet. The dark sun cracked one last time and dissolved into a shower of sparks. The leader stood beside him, eyes glowing brighter than ever. "You chose." "I don't know what I am," Corval said. "You're alive," the leader answered. "And that's enough." The plane faded. The hum faded with it. He was back in his own body, lying on the deck of the assault ship. Around him the soldiers were slumped in their seats, breathing hard but alive. The leader was at the ramp, helmet back on, looking out at the battlefield. Outside, the storm was breaking. The Zrith fleet was scattering like insects from a light. Corval tried to stand. His recorder lay on the floor, its tiny red light blinking. It had recorded everything. The leader turned to him. "You can go home now," it said. "Tell them what you saw, or don't. Either way, you're not one of us, and yet you are." Corval stared at his hands. The cracks had faded, but faint traces of light still moved under his skin, like ghosts. The hum was quiet but not gone. He realized it never would be. The ship rose, leaving the dead star behind. In the distance, Earth's blue light shone faintly. Corval felt a strange pull toward it, equal parts dread and longing. He closed his eyes. He could choose to run, to forget, to hide the nightmare. Or he could choose to return, to stand among the humans again, to become what he had feared. The leader's voice came over the comm, soft but certain. "Next battle is ours. With or without you." Corval opened his eyes. Outside the window, the stars trembled. He still hadn't decided if he had escaped or if he had just begun.